Sometimes you just need to turn off the distractions, get to work, and find the universal truths that affect us all and that govern our universe. This is a good place to do that. Mark Foltz and Kat Hobson will try to help with that a bit by bringing fantastic guests. Let's see what's happening tonight.
Welcome to Universal Truths with Mark Foltz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And I am here to give you a fun show tonight. We're going to be talking to Linda Anthony Hill. She's author of a children's paranormal series and owner of Hill House Manor in Gainesville, Texas, which was featured on the Real Housewives of Dallas. And I have to say, the first time I ever got to go to Texas was I had a talent agency for about 2 seconds. And one of the only places I got to go was to an event at this Hill House Manor, and that is where I met Teal Gray and Tui Snyder, and so I met a lot of interesting people. And so we're going to have a fun night tonight. We're going to use the first hour to talk about the Hill House, because it's a haunted house that you can pay to go to investigate, I believe. And the second hour, we'll talk about her children's books, because a paranormal children's series sounds fascinating to me. So we're just going to have a good time. So now, Miss Linda Anthony Hill, welcome to Universal Truths.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
And we are going to I want you to tell people a little bit about yourself and how to contact you and what services you offer.
Oh, okay. Well, Hill House Manor is probably the most famous thing I've got going on. People do come and stay for the evening or the night or the weekend or sometimes for the whole week. It's not a bed and breakfast. It's just a 3,000 square foot house that is haunted. It part of it's furnished. Part of it has electricity. Probably about 2/3 of it has electricity. And then there's a third of it that doesn't. And some people find that the creepiest part of the house, although not everyone. We're open 24/7, essentially all year long, except for Halloween. We do not allow any guests on Halloween. The people that come out on Halloween are looking for a different kind of spooky than what we have to offer, so we discourage that. We're also not available to demon hunters for similar reasons. I believe that what you look for is what you attract. Law of attraction. And if people go into the house looking for demons, they're going to summon some up because it's a very giving house. It'll give you what you want. That's why it's so popular. If you want to be scared, it'll scare you. If you want to be scared a little bit but not a lot, it'll do that. It's a very giving house with a lot of spirits, and they're never the same spirits. Like from one weekend to the next, there's no telling who's going to be there, which makes it fun again and again and again. It's not like you're going back to a house that has one ghost and you're interacting with the same one every time. You're going to interact with different ones every time you go, which makes it interesting. People can get in touch with me by emailing me at linda@hillhousemanor.com. Manor is spelled Manor. I have a website, but I don't keep it up very well. But there is a website at hillhousemanor.com that has some videos and some evidence, some static evidence, some EVPs, a few stories. But again, I don't keep up with it the way I should. My bad. What else would you like to know? Are you there? Okay, so it's just me. So I'll just keep talking. Hill House Manor started back in 2004 when my husband and I bought some properties in Gainesville, Texas. We didn't live in Gainesville. We lived over an hour away from Gainesville at the time. We bought the properties because we needed to make an investment relatively quickly because we had just sold a building and we needed to reinvest that money or pay a lot of taxes. So we reinvested the money into these properties in Gainesville. And for 2 years, we worked on these properties because it was a low rent neighborhood, and we were trying to bring the neighborhood up and clean it up. And we slowly, because you don't just kick everybody out, you have to have income. So you slowly upgrade the neighborhood, and it's upgraded now to the point where we have families that have been living here for years and are just happy as can be to be in the neighborhood. But back then, it was a shady neighborhood, and it took us a couple of years to stabilize it, to get tenants that were actually going to stay the full 12 months. And we worked hard on it, and we got that accomplished. But this house, which is the biggest house in the neighborhood, and some would say the nicest house in the neighborhood, this house, we couldn't keep any tenants in it. They would move in. They would be excited about the house. It was lovely. They wanted to know if they could fix up things and plant a garden and, just do all kinds of wonderful things with the house. And 2 months later, they'd be gone. The longest anyone stayed was 6 months. And we finally decided that whatever the cause was, we were tired of renting it out and having to go back in and fix it up after people had just moved everything in and moved everything out, dinged up the walls. We had to go back in and repaint and all of that. We just said, you know what? We come up here every weekend to work on these houses. We'll just use this house as a home base and an office, so to speak. And that's what we did. And one day, my husband was showing a property across the street from this house, and the woman looked at Hill House, which wasn't named Hill House at the time. It didn't have a name at the time. That's another story. But she looked at this house and she said, that house is haunted. My aunt lived there 30 years ago and it was haunted. And this has been 10 years ago now. She said it was haunted back then and it's still haunted. And we both, my husband and I, thought, okay. So people moved into this big old house. And the neighbors started telling them it was haunted. And now everything that goes bump in the night is a ghost. And before long, I mean, it's an old house. It creaks and, the pipes knock. And it has things that could make you think it was haunted. So we thought, okay, now we understand, But we really didn't think it was haunted yet. We hadn't had any experiences. But after we started staying there on weekends, we did start to have little things happen, things like putting something down and going back for it and it wasn't there. It was someplace else. Things that are just enough to make you think you're losing it. And, well, we realized that it really was haunted. And I told my daughter about this. She was in college in Corinth. And she told some friends, and they told friends. And before you know it, somebody wanted to come up and have a sleepover at the haunted house. And we said, sure, why not? And so they did. And a friend of mine said, you need to call in some ghost hunters. And I was like, ghost hunters, how do you find a ghost hunter? And you look in the yellow pages or what? And she laughed and she said, no, you have to have a Facebook page. And this was back in, 2004, 2005, 2006. Not a Facebook page, a MySpace page. There was no Facebook yet. And I said, I have a website. That's my daughter's space. That's not for adults. She said, no, we'll set you up a MySpace account and we'll find you some ghost hunters. So that's what they did. And that's when we needed to come up with a name for the house. And I had been searching records at the courthouse to no end. There was no record of this house that could be exactly identified as this house. The name of the street had changed twice. The numbering on the street had changed once. And there was just, I went to the museum and looked through their records. There was just no way to find it. And people in Austin have looked since then, and nobody can find out who built the house. So I said, you know what? We're the Hills. I don't care who built the house. We own it now, so we'll call it Hill House. And then we stuck Manor on the end of it, Hill House Manor.
Yeah.
And so it got a name for MySpace, and that's where the name came from. Like I said, we were kind of in a hurry to get a name because we wanted to set up this MySpace page so that we could find ghost hunters, so that we could get someone to come in and verify that it was actually haunted. Anyway, we got contacted. Now, back then, nowadays you can throw a rock and hit a ghost hunting team, but back then there weren't very many ghost hunting teams back then. We were contacted by someone from Galveston, and they came all the way up from Galveston to do an investigation. And the funny thing is they left in the middle of the night. They came knocking on our bedroom door. We had a bedroom set up for us to sleep in, and we had a blow-up mattress and, a couple of pieces of furniture, a recliner, and an air conditioner. But they came knocking at the bedroom door and said, we're going to go ahead and leave because so-and-so's not feeling that good. And we're just going to go ahead and drive on back to Galveston. This is at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, okay, I had taken a sleeping pill. I didn't care what they did. But they called me. Oh, and on the way out, they said, by the way, you do have activity. I'm like, okay. So they called me a couple of days later and they said, we want to apologize. We left and we told you that someone was sick and that's why we were leaving. And it was because my partner got a nosebleed, which she had never had a nosebleed in her life, when they were sitting there trying to interact with spirits. And it scared them.
Oh, okay.
It scared them. And so they left, which is exactly what our tenants would do. They would tell us that someone was sick and they had to go to California for treatment or to Utah to stay with the family and help them. You know, it was always someone was sick and they were having to leave. So that's what happened with this first ghost hunting team. Well, I told my daughter about it, and of course she told everybody she knew about it. And before you know it, we had another ghost hunting team wanting to come and investigate. And I thought, all right, we're losing money on this house at this point. I mean, we're paying a note on this house and we're paying taxes and, you know, keeping the lights on and everything. And we're losing money. I said, would you pay to investigate? And they wanted to do it on a Sunday night. And they said, sure, you know, how about $50? I said, sure, that'll work. And they came up and they investigated, and sure enough, they determined that it had spirits. And they told their friends who told their friends, and before you know it, we had people coming, you know, on a regular basis.
From all
it took
over.
a few months. It took a few months for word to spread, but, you know, we would have at least a few guests a month after a while. And it's still that way. We'll have a month that is packed, solid, and then we'll have a month where nobody comes. And then we'll have another month where, you know, there'll be every Saturday is booked and one Friday or something. You know, it's very, I don't know if it's seasonal. I don't know what it is. Well, around Halloween, it gets booked up every year.
Sure.
We're not open on Halloween, but we are open during the Halloween season. And there are a lot of teams that will rent the house to do events, so that they're selling tickets to people to come and investigate with them. And we have a deal that we work out with teams. If they want to do something like that, they make money, we make money, everybody's happy. But for just, you know, people that want to rent the house for a night, the prices vary from $150 for the night for up to 10 people to $250 for a Saturday night for up to 10 people. And you can have more people, you just have to pay more to have more people.
Yeah. Well, that's actually not a bad price.
No, you can't get a hotel room for that, and you can't have 10 people in there if you do.
No. When I came to the house, we were there during some kind of
Cancer Kicks.
It was several groups. It was several
Paranormal
groups.
Kicks Cancer or something. It was a.
Yes.
It was a
fundraiser.
Yes, it was a fundraiser.
And I didn't actually get to go upstairs because there were so many people doing what they were doing. We did readings and stuff down in the bottom part of the house.
Yes.
But I wanted to go up and see the rest of it, but it was packed.
Yeah, that was a busy night. We don't get nights that busy very often.
Yeah.
Usually there'll be 6 to 10 people, and you know, they've got the run of the house and you can go anywhere you want. But that was a fundraiser, and I mean, we brought I didn't. They brought Scott Grenwald in for that. We've got a train going by. If you hear a train in the background, I
have a train that goes in front of mine, so I understand.
I bet it's not as loud as mine.
All right. Well, no, I think yours is louder. We're going to have to take a break, so hold on, and we will be right back with you. So stay right there.
All right.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step, after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page, is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics, from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of, a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz and Kate Hop turning the knobs out there somewhere. And we are back with Linda Anthony Hill, and she's telling us about her haunted attraction in Gainesville, Texas. And it is, if you like to look at haunted houses, it's something I think you would enjoy. All right, Linda, I'll let you continue on telling stories about your haunted house.
I feel like I have so many stories to tell, and I usually don't get to tell most of them because it's little, TED Talks.
Sure.
How much can you cram into 20 minutes?
Well, I don't know, but give it a whirl.
There are
This
so
is like a
many
turkey.
stories.
Stuff it in there. This is like a turkey. Give it all the stuffing you can. Go for it.
Well, we've had, we were just talking about Scott Grenwald being at the house for that charity event, and he's a hoot. I wish he was listening tonight, but I'm sure he's not.
Well, yeah, you can tell him about it. He can replay it.
Yeah. Anyway, we've had a couple of incidents where we had a lot more people than were anticipated, and one of them was a group of teenagers that was supposed to be, I think they were 15-year-olds. Someone had just turned 15, so it was 14, 15, and 16-year-olds.
Oh, my
And
Lord.
there were supposed to be 12 kids and 5 chaperones. That was the deal. Well, somebody spread the word at school, and we ended up with 35 teenagers. Now, you've been in that house, Mark. 35 people is a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
And they were not unruly, but it's hard to stay focused on what you're there for when there's that many of you. It was like a classroom.
Sure.
Or 2 classrooms full. Anyway, the chaperones ended up back in the murder room doing an investigation of their own, and I ended up with all the teenagers. So I said, you leave me alone with your teenagers. Let's have a little lesson on the afterlife. We're gonna look at Linda's philosophies as opposed to normal philosophies, and we had lessons on the dowsing rods, and they spoke with some Native Americans, believe it or not. There wasn't much speaking, but there were pictures, which teenagers are young enough to still be connected to spirit in a way that adults shut off. Adults will shut it down at some point and just, that's it. They put up a wall and they're done with it. And these teenagers, there were a few of them that were, like I said, 13 and 14, that were still pretty well connected to the spirit world. And they started getting pictures from these Native Americans about how they died. And they had died near Hill House, but not at Hill House, because Hill House wasn't there when they died. They preceded civilization by quite a bit. In fact, one of my stories in Hill House Manor, 13 Ghost Stories, is based on the findings of those teenagers that night. Just the family that we encountered and how they died. But that was an interesting night. But for the remainder of they were only there for about like 2 or 3 hours, because I didn't want kids overnight. They wanted to do this for a birthday party, and I had said they can do this for an afternoon, but I have a team coming in at 7, and so you'll have to be gone by 7. So I think they started about 4:30 or 5 o'clock and had to leave by 7. So for a couple hours, they were quiet, they were attentive, they had good questions, and it was a great dowsing rod session, which I was just thankful not to have, 30 kids running around the house. How much damage they could have done.
It's like having 30 poltergeists,
Right. Exactly. They were good kids. They didn't mean any harm, but good kids running around a house can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, they're too excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, they're in a haunted house. And it's somebody's birthday, and the chaperones have secured a room for themselves. So they're unchaperoned.
Of course.
So taking control of it was no small feat. But I found it remarkable that they made contact with a Native American family and got the story of how they lived and how they died. And it was so complete. It was amazing to me. That's one of my more memorable times at Hill House. Roger Denton talks about a time that he hosted a birthday party for some kids. And there's something about taking kids into the paranormal. They're a lot more receptive than you think they'll be. And they're a lot more perceptive than you think they'll be.
Yes.
And it usually turns out to be something. Now, another time we had a group come and they brought two kids with them, a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old. And I said, this is not going to be good, to myself. Well, I ended up, back then, we would spend the night when people were renting the house for the evening. I would give a tour and then excuse myself sometimes to the bedroom. And sometimes I would stay out in the living room and just chat with people because I enjoy ghost hunters. I enjoy talking with people that are as open-minded as ghost hunters are. I just enjoy it. But anyway, that night, I had two kids scared to death on the sofa in the safe room, which it's not really safe, but that's what people call it because it's made up like a living room and it feels like somebody's house.
Yeah.
So it feels
I think that's
like
where
this
I
has
was.
got to be this. Yeah, you were on the safe side, which things happen on the safe side all the time. And when I say things like a lampshade being thrown across the room when no one's in the room. Things disappearing, things reappearing someplace that they weren't when they disappeared. Things like that. People have been known to fall asleep on the sofa and have a cat hop up on their back and start kneading. You know how cats will do.
Yeah.
And then wake up and realize, wait a minute, there's not a cat here. But there was a cat kneading their back. That's happened more than once. But anyway, these kids were scared to death. I mean, their eyes were just huge. They were not going to fall asleep. They were scared. So we visited and I tried to calm them down. But that's a story that I'll never forget. Just because the parents brought them in the first place. And
yeah, that's a little young to be exposing in a haunted house.
Well, if you're going to expose them, have them with you. Don't leave them in the front room by themselves because they were pretty much by themselves until I came out.
Yeah. They're terrified.
But, yeah. And again, I enjoy talking with anybody that shows up at Hill House, even if it's a 10-year-old.
Well, you can learn a lot from them. They really are. I think when they get past puberty, that's when the energy shifts and then they begin to get a little, the veil gets a little thicker for
sometimes I think
youngsters.
they put the veil up. I think people put the veil up. It scares them.
Well, of course.
They reach a point where it scares them. And they just say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
And put a stop
when I was
to
11, I had to do that. There was too much going on. I was seeing too much stuff. And I just said, I can't handle it right now. And I just quit listening for a few years. And then when I was ready, then I went back into it.
Right.
But we're also taught, in culture, these, unless you're taught it, it doesn't exist. Or if you are seeing things, they make kids feel like they're crazy, which really they're not. They're just open.
Crazy or possessed by demons or, just something that. No, thank you.
No. And most people, when people do the demon thing, that's a very rare occurrence in the world. And there are a lot of things that you need to have or infective. They can infect your energy field.
Yeah.
But, like a demon, that's something that's very, very, very rare. So it's not something very common. And then, but I see a lot of shows.
There's a religious sect that believes that everything is demonic. It's, if you're talking to a non-corporeal being, it's a demon. And that's just not true. That's just not true.
No. But in their religion, that's the way they handle it,
Yeah. But it bothers me that they have the audacity to accuse people. We had a lady that used to live next door to Hill House that she would stand in the yard and yell at people that it was demons and they needed to go to church and, get religion and, all this crap. And she would quote Bible verses and she would stand at the sidewalk. She knew not to come up to the house because I would call the police. So she would stay just off the property, but yelling out her Bible verses and telling everybody they were, sinning and it was satanic and all this nonsense. And she doesn't do that anymore, thankfully. I don't know what happened to her, but
I don't know. But it is something out there, and it's something you run into ever so often where I work. The way in the field that I work in metaphysics, and it's like, no, this is all God-given gifts. This is natural stuff. And there's a natural process, and there's energies. Energies does not die.
No.
So there's a lot of excess energy around, functioning, still thinking, and it's not a bad thing to be able to listen to that and to. It's just the veil is so thin. I mean, to me, it just gives more credence to it. It's not that far out of our realm. And one day all of us go on to the other side. So, so it's not a bad thing. The only thing that can be bad is if you have a bad intent.
Exactly.
Or you go into, and a lot of energies in metaphysics, a lot of energy is neutral until you apply what your thinking or your intent is onto it, and that's why you get dramatic responses sometimes. It's responding to what you're putting on it. Or there are spirits and energies that they don't like being called demons, or considered something bad. And they'll say, "You want a demon? I'll show you a demon."
Yeah.
And then they will do things to scare the hell out of you.
Yep.
And but that's what people are wanting. I think there's a lot of ghost hunters. They like to antagonize. And then the minute that they get a response, then they scream and run. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, we got scratched. Well, what were you asking for?
Yeah.
What were you there for?
Well, and a lot of them don't know. A lot of them really don't know. They just want something.
Train.
It's all right. But yeah, a lot of them don't realize what they want. They just want an experience.
Some kind of experience, yeah.
And that they get it mixed up and get it going, and then they walk off. And that's, where, that can leave residues and other things going on that, the next person comes on it, and then it's evolved a little bit more than what the other person experienced. But, and then not everything is a conscious energy. So, sometimes it's recorded, sometimes, so you have to be able to decipher what it is. And that just comes with age and practice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had no experience at all with any of this before we bought Hill House Manor. I had no idea that there was such a thing as a ghost hunter or a team.
No, and it's kind of at its height right now.
Yeah, it really is.
Because the window opens, the window closes. And then in the 80s, in the 60s, we had a big arc, where it kind of went in and then the window kind of closed. Then in the 80s, there was more interest in it and it kind of happened and then it closed. And right now we're doing the same thing. We're having kind of an arc. We're having where the window's open, people are interested, they're watching, and in a little while it'll either, it'll peter out a little bit or it will just change and keep going. But because people have short attention spans. But right now it's a good time to be in the haunted house business.
Yeah. I mean, I see the ebb and flow of it, even over the last however many years that is, 2007, 20, no, not 20. I don't know. Math is not my strong suit. But we've been going after it for, 12 or 15 years. And I've seen the interest rise and fall and rise again. And to be honest, when we first started out, I did not expect it to last very long. I expected it to dry up. And still, we get people that want to come and spend the night at Hill House Manor. And, we're thrilled because otherwise it's just sitting there empty. And the more people that come and contribute, the more things we can preserve, fix up. We had to replace, it's only been about a month since we replaced the downstairs bathroom, completely replaced everything in the bathroom, gutted it, essentially, and upgraded that. We had put new floors in the kitchen, big new air conditioner in the dining room.
We're going to have to take a break.
Okay.
And we're going to have to take a little break, and we'll be back, and we'll continue talking about Haunted Hill House. So stay right there.
No. Hill House Manor.
Hill House Manor. Excuse me.
Thank
Hill House Manor.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello? We in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And tonight we are talking to Linda Anthony Hill and talking about her haunted house. And we're going to continue on that, Linda. So we were talking about you were remodeling in the house.
Yes. That's the reason that we do what we do, is to maintain the house and to be able to do the projects that need to be done around the house, like, replacing the bathroom. And we replaced the floor and everything in there. Well, not this winter, but the winter before, we had that deep freeze here in Texas.
Yeah.
Well, my husband, God love him, went over and turned on the water so that we would have the water running and it wouldn't freeze up at Hill House. But what he forgot to do was turn on the heat. So the water was running, but it was running into a sink that iced over because the temperature in the house was the same as the temperature outside of the house. So we got running water filling up a sink with ice, and now it's running over onto the counters, and it gets an inch and a half thick on the counters, and now it's running down on the floor, and it gets an inch or 2 inches thick on the floor, all the way into the bathroom. Well, that all had to be repaired. Once we got, a little bit of a thaw and we got the ice up, we had a team come that weekend, and they were able to lift most of the ice off of the dining room floor and carry it out front where it could melt on the lawn. I mean, you can picture that. The whole thing, it was like a skating rink in the kitchen. But it ended up that there was something going on with something in the bathroom, and the floor was rotten, and we had to completely replace the subflooring. And that stirred some activity up. You go in and you start making changes in a house, and that'll stir the spirits up too. And it did. It's been very active since we've been working on it. We've got so much more to do, though. So I'm glad that people continue to want to come and investigate Hill House. It helps with the repairs and maintenance and upkeep on a beautiful old house that has so much history, and the veil is so thin at that house. It's amazing. And we don't really know why. I mean, yes, there's a well in the center of the house, which some people believe is a portal. And there's a train a block away that you've heard, and you can feel it go through when you're at Hill House. But we have houses in the neighborhood that are closer to the train that don't have any activity. I mean, I live in the neighborhood, as you've heard tonight from the train, and we don't have activity in this house, at least not much. But if you're sensitive, you're going to have activity anywhere you go. What's remarkable about Hill House is you don't have to be sensitive to have activity at that house.
Houses.
Say again? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I have rented several haunted houses because one thing, I love haunted houses, but the rent always seems to be better because, it's a hard thing to rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're always a very full of character and interesting, and it's not something to be afraid of. It's something to look at as, something practical.
Have you seen that new show? It's about a couple that buys or inherits an old house, huge house. Gosh, what's it? It's Ghost something. But she has a bump on the head, and suddenly she's able to see and hear the ghosts in the house.
Yes, I saw the English version. It's hysterical.
It is hysterical. I love it. I love the whole concept that, I mean, she has these conversations with multiple ghosts, and there's no doubt in your mind, there's no doubt in her mind, they're as solid as a real living person. It's a great concept and a funny show.
Very, very cute.
And I can't think of the name of it.
It's called Ghost, I think.
It might be.
It's just, I think it's just called Ghost. They have the English version and they have the American version. I haven't seen the American version.
I haven't seen the English version. I would love to see that too.
The English version is a hoot. It's just very entertaining. Very, very cute. But I have seen it. I want to watch the American version. I just haven't had a chance yet.
Well, they tackle a lot of crazy subjects, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, each ghost has its history. I mean, a haunting is history.
Yes.
It's something that happened in the past in that spot. So I do ghost tours for the cities I live in, and a lot of the ghost stories are directly attached to historic events. So you learn, you can, I mean, it's kind of like a tapestry. It's an embroidery. And once you kind of learn what the ghost story is, what happened, what time was that, it sometimes it brings up incredible information.
Exactly.
So it's you have to be a metaphysical historian, because the house that you have, it's a lovely Victorian, which of course, think about how many years of living and death and change has gone on. Well, it just stood there.
Another thing that we've discovered about the house is that it started as one room. It was a log cabin. It was a one-room house. And when they decided to expand, they did not add on. They brought in another one-room cabin and attached the two together. And from there, from there, we're not sure how the expansion went. But I believe that we have haunting from the original cabin, from the secondary cabin, and then as the house has been expanded and used for different things, we have spirits coming from all of those historical places. Plus, we have spirits that just drop in because it's a great place to hang out.
Yeah.
They just enjoy coming, and being seen and noticed and heard.
Yeah. Well, haunted places sometimes become like static electricity. And the more that you have people coming there, bringing their energy, looking for ghosts, it begins to be like lights on a foggy street. The spirits see them, and then they go, oh, they want to talk
What's
to me.
happening over there? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like people on the street, they just go, oh, let's see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And then you end up getting a mixture that may not have been there to begin with.
Exactly.
It just keeps evolving. It just keeps picking up like static electricity.
And that has definitely happened at Hill House Manor.
Oh.
I mean, I have noticed that the more visitors we get, the more spiritual visitors we get.
Yes.
Over the years, I used to say, now, we can't guarantee that anything's going to happen or that you'll get any evidence. But over the years, it has become less often that I say that, because it's almost guaranteed, not quite, but almost guaranteed that you're going to get something, an EVP at least, if you spend the night at Hill House.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. And two houses that do have wells underneath them, a lot of times because energy can flow through the water.
Absolutely. And we had the water tested, and it was fresh water. So there is a running stream under there.
Yeah, it's coming from some kind of little artesian well or something like that.
Yes.
So, I've definitely have seen spirits that have traveled through water. The reason spirits have a hard time crossing water is if it's running water, it breaks up their vibrational field. So they can travel through water, but they have a hard time crossing over water.
Interesting.
But the water also amplifies frequencies. So so they can just come and go and come and go and come and go.
Right. That's seems to be the general consensus about Hill House, is that a lot of the activity is because of the well.
Yes, because my grandmother had a house that was terribly haunted, and she saw the ghosts and everything else, but she thought that one of the ghosts that kept being seen was in the basement. And she felt like, 50 years ago, she went, well, I think he was killed down there. And when they were tearing the house down, my grandmother and them died, and the house was sold. And a few years ago, they were tearing it down, and that we didn't know there was a well underneath it that had been capped off. And we just felt like, well, that's where he is. And so whatever they build over it, it's just going to go right up into the building.
Haunted. Yeah.
Yes. And it was a pretty strong, scary haunting. So I wouldn't want to live in the building, let me tell you. But, we'll see. All righty. We're almost, I think, at a break time.
Oh, we are.
So let's go to break, and we will be back in a few minutes. And when we come back, we'll start talking about your books. How about that?
Right.
All right. Everybody sit still, and we'll be right back.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. President Joe Biden touted his vision for the future of the economy during a visit to Greensboro, North Carolina today. WFDD's April Leslie has more.
President Biden highlighted commitments from North Carolina bus and truck manufacturers to build more electric vehicles, and he celebrated Toyota's plans to build a multi-million-dollar electric vehicle battery plant in the Greensboro area. His message about increasing this kind of American manufacturing is very much tailored to a nation of households struggling with inflation.
When we build more in America, we increase economic capacity, and ultimately it helps lower everyday prices for families. That's what we're starting to see. Look around. American manufacturing is coming back.
The latest poll from High Point University shows most North Carolinians are not on board with the president's handling of inflation. Just 19% said they approved. For NPR News, I'm April Leslie in Greensboro.
The federal jury in Washington has convicted a man who stormed the Capitol January 6. NPR's Kerry Johnson reports the man testified he was following orders from former President Donald Trump.
Dustin Thompson has been found guilty of obstructing Congress and theft of government property for taking a coat rack and a bottle of bourbon. He told the jury he felt he had to travel to Washington to win respect from the former president. Thompson lost his job during the pandemic and spent long hours consuming conspiracy theories. The Ohio man is the third person who stormed the Capitol to be convicted by a jury. Some 800 people have been charged in connection with the January 6th attack, and the FBI is now moving up the chain to investigate the funders and organizers. DOJ is asking Congress for money to hire 80 more prosecutors. Kerry Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
Florida is banning nearly all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. NPR's Greg Allen reports the new law signed by the governor today is similar to the one in Mississippi that seeks to overturn the landmark Supreme Court decision Roe v. Wade.
Florida's law doesn't include any exceptions for pregnancy caused by rape or incest. It bans all abortions after 15 weeks except for those that threaten the life of the mother. It was patterned after a Mississippi law now under review by the Supreme Court. Arizona recently adopted a similar measure. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill into law before a crowd of anti-abortion activists.
This will represent the most significant protections for life that have been enacted in this state in a generation.
The law is seen as a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, which has been interpreted to allow abortions until the third trimester, about 24 weeks of pregnancy. Greg Allen, NPR News, Miami.
The man charged with Tuesday's mass shooting aboard a Brooklyn subway car is being ordered held without bail. 62-year-old Frank James appearing in federal court today. Authorities allege he unleashed smoke bombs and fired dozens of rounds from a handgun on the subway train. 10 people were shot, though none fatally. More than a dozen others were injured in the incident. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 113 points today. This is NPR. Federal officials are proposing limiting water deliveries from the Colorado River to 7 western states amid prolonged drought in the region. As member station KNAU's Ryan Heinches reports, they say falling water levels could force the shutdown of a massive dam.
The Interior Department's proposal would keep nearly 500,000 extra acre-feet of water in Lake Powell on the Arizona-Utah border. The agency recently told officials in Arizona, California, Utah, and other states that the move is necessary to prevent lake levels in the vital reservoir from dropping to the point where Glen Canyon Dam can no longer generate electricity. The dwindling levels also threaten the water supplies for the city of Page, Arizona, and several tribal communities. Water levels in Lake Powell have hit record lows following a drier than normal winter in much of the West and warm temperatures that have triggered an early snowmelt. The region is experiencing its worst drought in 1,200 years. For NPR News, I'm Ryan Heinches in Flagstaff.
A couple of House committees say they're launching an investigation into the government's use of facial recognition technology, software most recently used by the Internal Revenue Service, but the practice was halted after lawmakers and privacy advocates raised concerns. Critics of the software say such databases could become a target for cyber threats. They also say they're worried about how much software might be used by other government agencies. Lawmakers are requesting documents from one company on information related to the company's contracts with 10 federal agencies and 30 state governments. Crude oil futures prices continue to move higher today. Oil up $2.70 a barrel to $106.95 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Devo. To security teams, the cloud can mean complexity, threats, blind spots. But with Devo's platform, you can seamlessly collect and analyze all your data anywhere in your cloud journey. Learn more at devo.com.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Foltz, coming to you from WBHM-DB, 5 minutes after the hour. And we are continuing our show talking to Linda Anthony Hill. And we're going to start talking about her books because they're fascinating sounding. So we're going to talk about anything she wants to. So, Linda, hit it. Go for it.
That's wide open.
It's wide open. Go for it.
Anything I want to talk about. Woo.
Well, dance. No, well, we'll start with books. There you go.
Hello?
Are you there? Hello? Are you there?
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right.
Well, we were going to go from talking about Hill House Manor into a ghost story book you did based on that, correct?
Correct. I actually have
right.
2 books in the Hill House Manor series. The first one is Hill House Manor, the guest book. And that's a collection of stories from people who've actually spent the night at the house and had things happen to them. I put it together. In fact, it was the very first book I ever had published. And I think it probably was printed in 2010 or around that time. And that inspired me to write other books. And lately, I have put out a book called Hill House Manor, 13 Ghost Stories. And what it does is, like I mentioned earlier, there's a story about the Lipon Indians, Native Americans, that those children contacted. Well, I wrote that into a fictional story, and it's in this book. There's a story even before that one of how the house started as one room, a one-room cabin. And it's a kind of a long story. For the first story in a short story book, it's a long short story. But it takes you from not the beginning, not the building of the house, but actually from the bringing in the second house, and takes you for a few years into that story. And I think the next story might be about the Indians. And then there's a story about, I can't remember in what order they all are, but there's different stories that take place on the timeline coming up to the present. So that the short stories are all inspired by Hill House Manor, but not necessarily about Hill House Manor, if that makes sense.
Yes. So let's see. Would you like to share a story from the book?
Ooh.
To possibly lure them into buying it?
Well,
kind of off the cuff.
I've already started with the one about the Native Americans.
The Indians. Yes.
And it starts out that there's a small, not quite big enough to be called a village, but there's a small group of Native Americans camped up on the top of a ridge that goes down to a stream that's about, a quarter of a mile wide. But the stream itself is only about a few feet wide. And they've gone down this ridge to go get water. And the kids are down there with mom, and they're playing, and they see people up on the ridge shouting and waving their arms and motioning them to come on, get out of there, like there's something, going to happen. And they finally realize that they want them to come up, and they start moving towards the edge of the ridge to climb out. And the next thing they see is a wall of water with branches and trees and, debris at the face of the wall, and it's heading towards them. And what's happened is they're in the Red River during a drought season, and it has rained upriver to the point of flooding. And so here comes this wall of water. And they run trying to escape it, but there's no escaping it. Anyway, that's one of the stories. Obviously, there's more to the story than that, but that's the gist of the story.
Yeah, you can leave them hanging. They have to get the book to see the story.
That's right. And they're not all that kind of stories either. There's a story, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Gainesville was once a circus town.
Oh.
The people of Gainesville during the Depression, or right around the Depression, had a circus. And just regular folks were in the circus, and it traveled. It was a traveling circus with animals, because they had the Frank Buck Zoo as well. But people were subject to keep some of the animals in their yard. Anyway, one of the stories visits the circus era and follows a little girl who is, she does the trapeze in the circus. But I mean, they live in a regular house. They only travel with the circus when the circus is traveling, which is just, a few months out of the year. Anyway, somebody gets murdered, and there's a clown involved. So if you don't like clowns, that might not be the story for you. But if you do like clowns, I hate clowns. If you do love to hate clowns, then this is a good story. And in fact, I think there's a clown that shows up in 2 of the different stories. Yeah, I'm sure of it. Anyway, it has stories that either take place in Hill House Manor at some point in its history, or are inspired by stories that we've heard from ghost hunters.
Ghost hunters, yeah.
Who have
there was somewhere that I was with Teal Gray and Chewy Snyder, and it was a place where the Harvey Girls and all that was. Since I'm not from Texas, it's taken me a minute. But there was some place we were at that they had like a collection of circus memorabilia. I remember seeing it at somewhere. And most people do, they like their scary clowns. And I used to have to work as a clown. I hated the makeup, but I loved doing the work. But there are quite a few movies about that kind of thing. I was watching one the other day. It was about a submerged house with underwater clowns haunting it, and I thought, really? I was like, well, that's special. You just don't see that every day.
No.
But go ahead. continue on.
Anyway, that's one of my many books. I have about 10 or 12 published books. Now, the children's series you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
That, if you look at the cover of the first book in the series, what you'll see in the background is Hill House Manor. And that is kind of the setting for the house, for the story of a little boy who's 9 years old, and he's kind of afraid of ghosts, and he comes home after school and his babysitter's not there, which he doesn't really think he needs a babysitter anymore because he's 9.5 years old after all. So they call her his tutor, and she's there when he gets home to tutor him for school. But she's not there this day, and he remembers how to get the spare key and use it to get in, and he gets in and he thinks, this is going to be fun. I don't need a babysitter anyway. This is going to be great. And a couple of things happen that kind of spook him. And then this strange lady shows up and kind of invites herself in to help him investigate what's going on, which he didn't tell anybody what was going on. He hasn't told anybody anything. He hasn't talked to anybody, but here she is. So, okay. And she's got some neat equipment with her that they can use. And so she pulls out some equipment and they start, investigating. And after some investigating, they determine that there's logical explanations for everything. And then his mother calls, and she is talking to Brandon. It's Brandon's Ghosts is the name of the book. The series, actually, is Brandon's Ghosts. The first book in the series is called The First Hunt. Anyway, it turns out there is a ghost, and she becomes a friend of his, and she shows up periodically and helps with other investigations that he and some friends do. And that's what the series is about. They're different investigations where friends have something going on that they can't explain and they're scared, and grown-ups won't listen to them, so they've begun to get a reputation as the ones to go to when something scary is going on in your house.
Okay. And what is the name of that series?
That series is Brandon's Ghosts.
Okay.
Brandon with an E.
Okay.
Brandon's Ghosts. And I started writing, I wrote the first story for my grandson who was afraid of ghosts, and I wanted to give him some perspective on, how much of it is just your imagination, but that it's not necessarily all your imagination. There is such a thing as spirit, and it's okay. They're not all out to get you. In fact, most of them are not out to get you.
No.
Anyway, he enjoyed the book, and so I wrote another one, and another one, and another one, and kids that like them really like them. And they're all available on Amazon. You can find me on Amazon at amazon.com/authors/Hill, Hill, Lin, Lin. I didn't come up with that. They did.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. Hill, Linda Hill.
Sure.
Anyway, that's where you can find me and a list of all my books. Another book that was kind of, I've incorporated some of Hill House into the book is, and it's part of a series, the Madame Celeste series, and this is for adults. And it's about a woman who is a psychic. She lives in a small town in a house very similar to Hill House. And she doesn't claim to be a witch, but she certainly seems to be a witch. But she's definitely a psychic, and she's a professional psychic. She receives clients in her home. She has a special place set aside to receive clients, and she's middle-aged. She's probably in her 40s.
Okay.
And she finds a toy boat at the creek where she takes her crystals to cleanse.
Okay. We're going to have to take a break for a minute.
Okay.
So stop right there, and we will come back from our break, and we will continue on with the ghost stories.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and intended for listeners over 16 on paratalkradio.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Universal Truths This is Mark Foltz coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And tonight we're going to continue talking with Linda Anthony Hill, and we are talking about her haunted house and her books. So, Linda, let's continue talking about what you got out there.
Well, we were talking about the first book in the Madame Celeste series, which is called The Anchor is the Key. And that's where finding this little toy boat comes in. It's not like a toy so much. It's more like one of those ships that you find in a bottle, except it's not in a bottle. It's what do they call those ships? Do you know?
I don't know. I want to say a cutter ship, but I can't remember.
But they're small models. They're modeled ships.
Yeah.
They're not toys,
Yeah.
they're models.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
she finds this and she picks it up and she gets a flash of a little boy on the side of the creek bed, like he's been, caught off guard by the water, and there he is, not gasping for breath, looks like he's passed out or dead or something on the side of the creek. So she starts walking up the creek to see if the boy is anywhere to be found. And she walks all the way to the next bridge and hasn't found anything, but there's a man standing up on the bridge, and he calls out to her, "Where did you get that boat?" And she said she just found it, and she thinks there's a boy that might be in trouble, and she's looking for him. And he says, "That's my son, and we found him already. He's all right, but we were looking for the boat." And so he comes down, and they talk about it a bit, and he finds out that she's not a psychiatrist, she's a psychic.
Yeah.
She actually is a social worker. She's a licensed professional social worker, but she doesn't tell anybody about that. So she has the capability of helping people in a session, both psychically and psychologically. She's trained. But in this small town, people trust a psychic more than they trust a psychologist. So she's just a psychic as far as they're concerned. But anyway, they get to talking, and he wants to hire her because, he's impressed that she saw all that about his son, about the ship. And he gives her a ride home because he's detained her, and the story goes from there. And there's a murder involved, and the ship is a clue, and the ship has an anchor on it, and the anchor is the key, hence the name. But that's the first book in the Madame Celeste series. The second book in the Madame Celeste series is called The Spider House. So, if it's not clowns, it's got to be spiders, right?
True.
Most ghost hunters don't like spiders.
No.
At all.
I'm one of those.
I'm indifferent. I mean, I don't kill them just because they're there.
Oh, no. No. I mean, they have their place, and we need them.
Right.
I just don't want them on me.
Right. Yeah, I don't like them on me, but I wouldn't kill one just because it was on me. I'll move it to someplace else. Because most of them aren't going to hurt you anyway.
No, but in Texas, y'all have tarantulas, which are different. That's a whole different subject.
They won't hurt you, will they?
I don't care. I'll hurt myself getting away from one quickly.
No,
I will break something. It will probably be something on me, but I will get away from a tarantula.
Well, in this story, in this book, someone had a pet tarantula or some kind of large spider, and they were supposed to have gotten rid of it, and they didn't. And then the family moved out of the house, and the pet stayed, and before you knew it, it got out of hand. And they're trying to open the house back up, and they've got all these spiders. And that's just the beginning of the story. Before it's over with, we've got something that could be a werewolf or a djinn, or we're not sure what it is, and somebody has been murdered, and Madame Celeste is asked to help solve the mystery. And that's a general theme with Madame Celeste. She's just doing her thing, and something happens around her, or something within her range, that she becomes privy to information that helps with the case. And in the meantime, we get to find out what the life of a psychic is like on a regular daily basis. And it's interesting. They're good mystery stories. Some people call them cozy mysteries, like Agatha Christie type mysteries. There's nothing gory. There's nothing, I mean, yes, there's some scary parts, but it's not so scary that it would freak you out and cause you to not be able to sleep that night.
But some people like that.
Yeah, but I don't, so I don't write it.
I'd like to say get scared, but I also just like a good, easy read. Something where you can sit where you don't have to worry about, being nervous.
Yeah. I mean, there's some scenes in all of my books that are a little, not my children's books. I don't want to scare children.
Yeah.
I know there are writers out there that do, but I'm not one of them. And I'm not graphic with full details of every drop of blood that's been shed. I don't go there.
Sure.
I'm also not graphic when it comes to anything sexual. There may be romance, there may be, conversations and dates, but there's not anything, erotic going on in any of my books.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, that when they get too detailed on that stuff, I lose interest, because to me, that's not what I'm there to read. I'm there to read a mystery or
what's going on
here? To me, that's too much. Yeah.
And how does she figure it out? And she has help. She has access to spirits. So she always has help. And her problem is coming up with the actual evidence to support what has been told to her by a spirit. Well, that's great that I know who did it, but how do I know? How can I show the police? How can the police figure this out? Is her biggest problem. Anyway, my other books, I wrote one book that, I don't know, some of my followers are authors, So they might be interested. I wrote a book called Bookkeeping for Authors, and it's exactly what it is. It's a couple years old, so there may be some new nuances in the tax laws, but it's basically how to keep track of your expenses, what expenses you need to keep track of, what income you need to keep track of, how you need to keep track of it. It's just a primer on bookkeeping for our authors, because it's a different type of business from most businesses, and it is a business. If you're an author, you're in business. Whether you make any money or not, you're going to spend some money.
Yes.
Because no book gets in print without having spent money to get it there. You have to pay for editors. You have to pay for somebody to do your cover. You have to pay for formatting, unless you learn to do all these things yourself, which a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And for them,
and they have
it's
to have that service
process. Yeah. I mean, you have to have all this stuff done. Writing the story is just, the start.
Yes.
Have
Getting
you written
it
any books, Mark?
Yes, I have. I have done a lot of books with Teal Gray. We've done, she's done several books like Shades of Angel, Scared Senseless. I've been in other books like Web of Terror, which was fictional stories. So I probably, of my own, I have about 5 that are just my own. And then I have other books with other people. So I'm a part of about probably 9 to 10 books so far. And and once you get it going, it's a whole different thing, but it's a challenge to get it all done from your fingertips to a completed book, and then getting the book sold,
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother challenge. Getting the books marketed is a challenge.
Yes, and now you can't. There's so many options, because when I was young, the only real option you had was to write it and see if someone would publish it.
Right.
And now, and you get an advance and all that stuff. But now you can be your own publisher.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's on you to get it out there.
Yes.
Yes, because you don't have a big company doing that, or giving you out extraordinary checks, to get you to do it. I mean, it does happen.
Oh yeah,
to a small
still traditional publishing.
Yes.
I went through a small publisher on my first Madame Celeste book, Black Rose Publishing. And I found out the hard way that if you go with a small publisher, it's only a cut above publishing it yourself.
And if you can do it. I said, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, they can recommend editors. They can recommend people to do the things that need to be done, but they don't pay for them. You have to pay for them. So in the beginning, it was worth it because I didn't even know the resources I needed. But after being published, then I knew what resources I needed, and it was easier for me to just go find those resources myself and publish. I have a publishing house called Hill House Publishing. Surprise.
Surprise. Well, but that's a good thing. Teal Gray, I've been writing books, but when I met Teal, then she helped me conquer, getting what we need done. And I do a lot of artwork and stuff. So I've gotten to where I do covers and illustrations and all of that. But if you have to have someone do it, it's a fortune.
It can be.
It can be a fortune. And so the most that you can do it yourself, the better.
Absolutely. But I can't draw a stick.
Well, I can draw pretty good, which has helped me because I like to illustrate my stories and all that. But not everybody has that available. And all of it, being an editor, that's a very important part.
Oh, yes.
And so it's a learning process, but it is a business. Because when you're first doing it, you're going, it's the excitement of just being able to write.
Yes.
And then, it's like building a house. You got to put, the roof on it. So, and places like Create Space has made it a lot easier for people.
Well, Create Space is defunct now. There is no more Create Space.
Oh, well, I mean, now it's turned into KDP, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where my stuff is. We started off on Create Space. And I like this digital book, but I'm still old school. I like to have a physical book in my hand.
And KDP has an option now to publish hardback.
I saw that, and I thought, I love that, because that is something from childhood. I love books. And but I love to have them in my hand. I like the electronic stuff, but I like to have the book. And I had seen that they were doing hardback, which is lovely. I mean, to me, it's I'm sure it's costly.
Well, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm going to do one in hardback just to see how expensive it is.
That. Yeah, I'll have to try that, because they really are. Once you get it done now with KDP, it is affordable. I mean, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I'm just saying, for me doing it, once you've got the books on there, it's pretty affordable to get them, and I love it. I love it. It's just totally different from when I was young, because, like I said, you had to, if you wanted a book done, you're talking thousands of dollars. And you're talking about, if you're getting it to a company, they may look at you and say, mostly most people didn't get chosen to have their books published.
No.
And it's like, now you just have to be objective, though. You have to look at your own stuff and be able to say, well, that stinks, or that's great.
Right.
You have to be honest to yourself. And some books are like your children when you've done them. They have a mystical thing for you. But out of my friends, I always tell my friends, write a book, do it. You're because most of them have a story to tell.
Everybody has a story to tell.
Has a story to tell. And because I had a friend who was just brilliant, but he just would never do it. But he had so much knowledge on architecture and things like that. He would have done a fascinating book. But I think everyone should try it, because it also gets a lot of things off your chest. If you're, it helps you heal yourself if it's about you, stories about your families or your experiences. It can be therapeutic.
Yes, absolutely.
And nothing is thrilling enough to when you see your book on Amazon,
Oh,
so
yes.
It's very exciting.
So, yes.
And it's, so I always suggest to people, figure it out, look around. And you don't know when to ask. I mean, some of your friends could do editing, some of your friends could do covers, or photographs. Now they have a lot of books. You can even pick from their thing of their own cachet of covers.
That's
so you
true.
don't really necessarily have to do it.
That's
so,
true.
But I
Yeah,
always
you can do it
I
for
try to
cheap,
get people to do it.
especially if you don't want it in print. If you're happy to have it as an ebook, and have
Oh,
you
yeah.
seen the Vel option now?
No.
Vel is on KDP, and you can write basically short stories and get them on electronic media and make money on those just from people reading them.
I
Short
think Jill
stories.
told me something about that, and
Short stories
and I
that
like to.
turn into series that eventually become a complete novel. But
Okay.
I
That would be
haven't.
fascinating.
I've looked into it a little bit, but I haven't explored it enough.
Well, I've heard a little bit about that, and it did kind of catch my attention.
Yeah.
And right now I'm working on some Victorian ghost stories, so
perfect.
I have to evolve those.
Perfect.
Because I'm I didn't know I would be enjoying the fiction as much, but I really am enjoying it. Because most of my ghost books are about stories that are out there or I've investigated. So I am enjoying doing the fiction. So I'll have to give it a look.
I have a nonfiction besides the bookkeeping nonfiction. I have another nonfiction book that is a self-help book. It's called Finding Up.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Are we going to take another break?
I think we are about to. We'll just say it's a break. We'll be back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Universal Truths with Mark Fultz, coming to you from WBHM-DB in beautiful Birmingham. And we are about to finish up our show with Miss Hill here, Linda. And again, tell where you find her or find her books. And so, Linda, you go right.
Okay. You can find me on Facebook. I'm just author Linda Anthony Hill on Facebook. And that's the best place to catch me, really. Although you can email me at Linda@Hill House Manor, MANOR.com. I also have a newsletter, but I don't have any place to send you to sign up for it. You could email me and let me know you want to be on my newsletter, and I can add you to it. That would be the simplest way. Hill House Manor has a site, hillhousemanor.com, and you can find my author site on Amazon at amazon.com/authors/Hill, Hill, Lynn, LIN. And I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk much about Finding Up, because it's really a good book on improving your life, making your life better, getting what you want out of life. So maybe you can look for that on Amazon too. Did I cover everything?
I think so, because when they look up one product, it'll bring up all your products. Should on Amazon, any of your books that are on there.
It should.
And it should. And I need to
tell series. If you pull up one of the books, it shows all of the books in the series.
Yeah,
but it also has a little picture of me, and it says follow author or something, and you can do that and then click on it, and it'll take you to my author site on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll have to look at all of that. I will look up all of that later as this evening. And I'm going to tell people, if they want to catch me, if you're in Pensacola, I work at Live and Let Live Metaphysical Store on Softly Field Road. And I also, because I do readings there, so you can call them and see what day I'm there. If you want to catch me on Facebook, which is the easiest way to catch me, look up Chattanooga Chills or look up Mark Fultz, Fults. If you want to look at my books are on Amazon. Just put in Mark Fultz. It'll take you to it. If you want to see my videos, I have just Mark Fultz on YouTube. And pretty soon here, I'll be putting out my Fat Psychic Cooking Show, which will be fun. So I'm going to get a website together, get everything going. But for me, that's about it. If you want to look at, me, just put my name in there. It'll take you to something. And if you want to see my Chattanooga Chills Ghost Tour, it's on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. So, all right. Miss Linda, are you there?
Yeah. Chattanooga Chills. How is that in Pensacola?
Well, I come from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and my tour is an online ghost tour. I think it's the first one that I've ever seen. So you can just go to Chat, and you can go to it, and it's just 12 blocks of Chattanooga downtown. But I had about 40 or 50 stories, really, of downtown Chattanooga. And I'm about to do the same for Pensacola. I'm going to do a Pensacola Chills book and then do a Pensacola online ghost tour.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Yeah, and the one from Chattanooga Chills right now, it's free. So if you want to watch it, this is the time to watch it. Because during the COVID, I put it out there to entertain people. Mm-hmm. And coming into the fall, I'll probably have to, put it back to being a pay to view or pay per view. But right now, if you want to see it, this is the time to see it.
Well, that's interesting.
And but it's a lot of fun. It's evolved from doing books to doing videos. I'm working on an album, so right now,
album?
It's an album. I do
a music album.
a music album. I write past life songs. They sound like they come from the 1800s and 1600s.
Oh.
And a friend of mine is putting them to music. I've had them, a lot of them I've had over 30 years. And they're very, very metaphysical. And some of them are actually, it's amazing me how current some of them are, even though, they just have a message that never goes away. So there's some parts of human nature. It doesn't matter if it's 200 years ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah. I can see that. So have you explored past lives?
Yeah, I know who I was in a couple. So, but
we'll have to save that for another show.
We'll have to do that for another show because it is something. But I mean, you have DNA reincarnation, you have spiritual reincarnation.
Exactly.
So all the people whose DNA is in your pool, you get their eye color, hair color, but you also get their memories. Mm-hmm. And then the spiritual one is where you get your things that you need to do. Yes, so things that your purpose comes from the spiritual. The DNA gives you a lot of things, but it's not always, something you have to conquer. Right. And it's just something that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so at my store that I work at, I do Akashic Library meditations, and next month I'll be doing a past life regression class, and then I do seancing for healing and closure, we call it Dead Speak to Me, and another psychic there, Tony Talley, she takes 1 month, I take the next month, and so we have a lot going on.
Well, we'll have to get back together and do a night on near-death experiences and past life experiences, because we both have both of those.
Yes. That would, you're sure that would be another show. That would be, people really like that kind of, that information. So yes, that would be a lot of fun.
It would.
Well, now I think we're coming to the close of our show. So is there anything else you'd like to say, Miss Linda?
No, I think I've covered almost everything on the subject.
Okay.
There's so many subjects to cover. I could go on for hours.
I know how that goes. So, we've enjoyed having you here tonight.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed being here.
Good. And I'll say hi in there to Kat. I know she's turning the knobs. But it's getting time for us to say goodbye until next week. So thank you, Miss Linda Anthony Hill, for coming this week. And to the watchers out there, we will see y'all and talk to you next week. So come on back on Thursday at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock Central Time. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Linda, for coming. And y'all have a good evening.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.